Glenn, thank you so much. My name's Amy Spain Duncan. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March the 6th of 2010. I have a home group. They know I'm a home group member. I have a sponsor. She knows she's my sponsor. I sponsor women who sponsor women who sponsor women, and I love that thing about my life. So those are the logistics, right? I'm sponsored, and that's so important. Um, I am active in a home group, and I always say my home group raised me, right? So I came in and I didn't know what UAAs did. I didn't know what your meetings were about, and they quickly put me in service and helped me to learn, to sit up front and to shake hands with at least, five women when I come in, introduce myself, and to chair meetings and be involved. And then we also, my home group is a 3 legacy home group, so there were opportunities for H&I or Bridge the Gap work where we take meetings into hospitals and institutions and jails, and I got to do all those things, and it was important because I I I I thought getting sober was the goal, and it's really just it's the starting line. It's not the finish line. And that's amazing because if it was just about being sober, um, what am I going to do with the irritable, restless, and discontent that comes whenever I'm sober? Because sober never felt good. That's why I stayed rarely mildly intoxicated and usually insanely drunk, right? And our literature talks about that. So I had this process of becoming right sized in this world and fitting myself for maximum service and finding how to be happy, joyous, and free without a drink. And so the work starts with me, and the home group put me in that service, that action part, and that helped. I had a sponsor, and it's not the same sponsor I'm working with today, but I always get sponsors that are literature based. I like a 3 legacy sponsor. I want a sponsor that's doing the whole deal, the whole thing. My friend Sheldon says, come all the way in and sit all the way down. And that's what we've got to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I can't just be a meeting maker, right? Meeting makers make a lot of meetings, but I need all of it. I need the unity, I need the traditions, I need the service, and I need the recovery for myself. And so I get sponsors that are, properly armed with the facts about this disease and what's in the first 164 pages of that literature. I was promised when I got here that the application of the spiritual program of action would work in every area of my life, and so I needed to make it my primary focus. Um, I I do all the things, and I get all the results from doing all the things, right? So I get to live this really big, juicy, magical, amazing life, which I'm in love with, and I will not trade for a drink today. And I get to make that decision every day, and I'm glad I'm at a place. But in the beginning, I know we have some newcomers here in the beginning, just deciding if I was going to be sober every day or every hour from morning to afternoon on into the evening was just a struggle. I have a mental obsession. I have this obsession with the drink. I have this thing that always says the drink is a good idea, and early recovery was not comfortable for me. I thought, man, if I got to fight this fight every day, I'm screwed. Eventually, I'm going to throw in the towel. I'm going to succumb, right? I mean, the insane idea will win out because I have this poor I have spiritual disease, but I no longer have to fight the drink, and I love that. And our step 10 promises were placed in a position of neutrality. And so it was getting to that point. How do I get to the point where I'm not struggling, white knuckling, hanging on, terrified in my sobriety? I want a sobriety that I'm just sober and it's just what I am, and the struggle is gone. And that I got through working the steps and working with others and the combination of all things. So when I arrived, I will say, I'm a low bottom drunk. And I wasn't born in the gutter, but I certainly ended up there. In the beginning, I'm a privileged individual, private schools and a supportive family and good education, and, a strong faith, they're practicing Catholics. I went to Catholic school and mass on Sundays and confirmation and sacraments and all the things, and the community of family, and drinking was very common in my family. But nobody else drank like me, right? They may be considered heavy drinkers. I know when something happened in their lives, they were able to stop, and that wasn't my story. I couldn't stop no matter the necessity or the wish. And so this is my drinking started early, and junior high school. Immediately, I can tell you, we live life forward, we understand it backwards. I had no idea that when I ingested alcohol, something different happened to me than the 6 girls I was getting drunk with. I didn't know that what was going on internally with me and how that alcohol just warmed my entire inside and made all my fears dissolve, right? And I imagined a spiritual healing as was taking place as I drank. I knew they were just getting tipsy and having a good time. I was having a spiritual experience. All my problems were gone. All my fears were gone. All my insecurities were gone. I was in heaven. And I knew I would keep doing it. And I would protect and defend my right to drink, until I was 39 years old, because of what alcohol did for me, how it healed that spiritual malady, or seemed to the delusional state that it was taking care of this problem in me. And when I drink, I'm unpredictable, and I tend to be rageful or violent, and this would come out, and I had a lot of fights and problems. But I never thought it was alcoholism. I thought it was you. I don't get along with, you're a jerk. They're judgy. Girls are cliquey. It was always you. It was never me. And that was a struggle in AA, that the blame game is over, right? And in our literature, the spiritual axiom wasn't my sponsor's favorites with me, because I'm a justified anger, and they made me do it. And if only they would act this way, I would be okay, man. That's my record. That's the record that plays in my head all the time. And there's a thing that says, whenever I am disturbed, something's wrong with me, not the other man. Man, that just used to chafe my chaps. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really wanted to be your fault. I want to justify my anger. And that, because I'd done that all my life. But recognizing and taking responsibility that I can't change you, I can only change me, and how to live at peace in this world. Man, what an order, right? And I wasn't interested in that solution early on. I cling to my entitlement and my anger. It makes me feel real powerful and kind of good. And so I'm reluctant to let those things go. And I ride on that most of my life. And I bounce from relation. I'm bedeviled, right? So I have the bedevilments. I have trouble in my personal relationships. I'm of little to no use to anyone. I cannot financially support myself. I have little control of my emotional nature, and this is who I am. And I don't know that that's a problem. And the only thing that gives me relief is alcohol. And I'm going to drink, and I'm going to drink, and I'm going to drink, and that's what I'm going to do. And I don't. The devil be damned. I don't care about the consequences. I'm just going to keep drinking. And early on, I had people talking to me about my drinking. Amy, when you drink, you're a different person. When you drink this or that. And the book talks about sorting out, finding sorted companionship. And that's what I needed to do. My daddy said I always looked for a place where my unacceptable behavior would be acceptable. And that's the crowd I'm looking for. I'm looking for the guys that aren't going to say anything, and maybe what you're doing is worse, and I'll feel better about me. And that's the story of my life. That's the song and dance, right? The drinking, the repeating, the drinking, the consequences.
Off.
And then, back to the drinking, back to the drinking. So that's what I'm doing. I ended up at 19 having a baby, and I wish I could tell you everything changed and I became mom of the year, but that's just not the truth. I continue to drink. I continue to live this very chaotic lifestyle, this very emotionally driven, selfish, self-centered, inconsiderate place that I was from. That's where I was still operating from. And I'm just dragging a kid with me, through that. I got married. I had my second baby at 21, a single mom with 2 kids. I was working as a waitress, at a cocktail bar, just like the song, right? And I had my second baby, and I'm on welfare. And the fine folks at the welfare office said, "You seem pretty intelligent. We could pay for you to go to school." And I went to a 1-year nursing program and got my LPN license. And then I found him, and he was willing to marry me. And I thought, great, now I have a job, a career. I have a husband. We bought a house. I had the cars. I have the kids. I was 24 years old. Now everything will be okay. And it's pretty frightening when you get all the ducks in a row and the show still doesn't come off the way you want it, right? And so at 25, this man's leaving me. He's taking the kids. He says, "I don't want to, you're crazy." And when I drink, like I said, I'm not only rageful, I'm an adulteress. I'm a liar. I am, the book says an alcoholic in his cup is an unlovely creature. And I'm an unlovely creature. No one should have to put up with my shenanigans and my behaviors. And after a year, he said, I don't want to do this. And I'm going to take to the kids, because the kids shouldn't have to live like this either. And that frothy emotional appeal, man. But finally, I think for me at 25, when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous the first time, it was to get out of trouble. That's why most of us have, right? I was trying to get out of trouble, and I was trying to not get divorced and convince this guy to stay with me, and I'll do better, and all the sweet promises. My dad, who had been absent most of my life, had gotten sober on my 18th birthday. And he was in AA, and I didn't know anything about AA. I thought this is where you retired. Like after you drank for as long, and then you retired and went to AA, and you talked about when you used to drink, shared your stats or scores. I don't know. I didn't. I knew my dad was available, and that was different. My dad had the same phone number, and that was a big deal back then, because they used to disconnect your phone, and then when you got it reconnected, you had a new number. My dad never had the same phone number. He was unreachable. That's what I remembered from my childhood. And he had found you, and suddenly my dad was available and present. And so I knew something happened at AA. I just wasn't sure what. And I called him up and I said, "Dad, I think I got what you got. I'm getting ready to lose everything, and I don't know what to do." And my dad 12-stepped me, and he brought me to you, and he turned me loose in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I fell in love with AA. I have never been a person who didn't like AA or didn't enjoy AA. I love the stories. You're funny. We're above average in all areas of our lives. We're charismatic. We're successful. We're driven. But there's so many wonderful things about the alcoholic that I love. And I love stories. I love stories of redemption. And I had fun with you. And mostly, I wasn't in trouble. So I'm that kid, right, that's been in trouble since I was 7 years old, right? I talk too much. I can't sit still. I don't know where my homework is. I kissed your boyfriend and you're mad. And teachers are mad, coaches are mad, everybody. My mom's mad, because of my behaviors as I aged. And I felt like I had just always been in trouble. And when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I wasn't in trouble. You didn't ask me stupid questions like, why would you do that? With that disgust and disdain in your voice that I'd heard so often. You smiled, and you said, "Yeah, me too." And usually topped my story with something worse, So I felt at home. I fell in love with the fellowship and the tolerance and love and patience we show to everybody who arrives here. And I was hooked. But what I didn't do in that first bit of sobriety, interval is usually brief. So this is a 3-year interruption to my alcoholism when I came to AA at 25. I didn't read the book. I didn't work the steps. I didn't learn the traditions. I was very active in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I had fellowship-based sobriety. And the marriage, and things got better. The marriage got better, everything got better, and we had 2 more kids. We bought a bigger house, and we moved. And when we moved, if you've ever moved in AA, those meetings aren't like my meetings, and they don't do AA the way we do AA, in different areas, and how that can all be. And I stopped going to AA. And I really believe that I knew God now, and I'm the guy in the book that says, thanks for the information, I've got it from here. And that's what I did. And I faded out of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm the real alcoholic. And that, my life is, the evidence is in. That's been proven to me time and time and time again. I'm the real alcoholic. And ultimately I did start drinking again. And I had never read page 31. And I swear I read that for the first time in 2010. I was like, well, that's what I did. I don't take a trip, do take a trip, drink brown liquor, drink organic wine. I was trying to find every way imaginable to control and enjoy my drinking. It was my great obsession. And I can't do either. I can't, if I'm controlling it, I can't enjoy it. And if I'm enjoying it, I'm sure as hell not controlling it. And, eventually I blew the doors off the barn and I'm in full blown alcoholism again. And everything is worse than before, right? Worse, never better. It's worse than before. And the fights are worse, and the chaos is worse, and the insanity is worse, and the bedevilments are worse. And I can't even feign anything normal. I'm in full blown alcoholism. And he did divorce me. We got divorced, and things got really dark for me after that. I was unemployable. Because I can't come to work. I'm drinking. And I'm hungover. And so I have attendance issues, right? And tardies at work all the time because drinking is the priority. I'm not one to say I shouldn't drink tonight. I have to get up early for work in the morning. Work is never going to stand in the way of me drinking. And so, I would drink and pass out and be late or call in because I don't feel good and start drinking again. And so I'm losing jobs and opportunities because I can't show up. And when I show up, I'm not performing well. I'm irritated. I'm hungover. I'm foggy brained. I'm just not your best employee. So I get fired, and I, I thought I'm gonna get a job next week. I'm gonna get a job soon. I'm gonna get a job come Monday. And but I would take a drink. And for me, when I take a drink, the drink takes me. I think there's a step, and I think they say, I take a drink, the drink takes a drink, and then the drink takes me. And that's what would happen to me. And I'm not working. And I love that line. Bill Wilson writes, no one could predict that this would be the last, honest labor I did for many years. Because when you lose that last job, you don't think, well, that's it. I'm not going to work for another 6 years. You don't think that. You think, I'm going to get another job. I'm going to fill out some application. I'm going to get back on track. Always telling myself that I'm in a slump. I'm just having a slump. I'm having some bad luck. But I'm going to get it back together, and I'm going to get back on top, and I'm going to get back on top. And I'm not going to do it today. Today I'm going to have a drink, but that's my plans. And I had those plans, and I could never pull it off because I took a drink. I ended up homeless. I remember getting evicted from my apartment because I wasn't paying the rent because I wasn't working, and I was living in my car. And even then, I didn't think, Amy, you're homeless. I thought I was, just between places right now, women-wise. I'm looking into some things, saving up, all that. And it happens really fast and really slow. It's insidious. And one day they towed the car. And now I'm literally homeless. I don't even have a car to sleep in or to get around in. And you'd think that would be enough. And I would run back home to my family or my parents or go into treatment, but it wasn't. I stayed out there living like that, like an animal, for 3 or 4 years. And what happened during this time, besides the material things all being gone, I began to be spiritually bankrupt. I began to die spiritually. I no longer valued life. I didn't value my life, and I didn't value your life. I was filled with bitterness and disdain and misery. And I was just I was dangerously antisocial. And I lived like that for years. Finally, on March 6, 2010, my dad picked me up off a street corner. And I was grossly underweight. I was missing teeth. My hair was falling out. I was dirty. And I was pitiful. It was pitiful. I think about that girl standing there in 2010. She seems so far removed from where I am today, but I remember the condition in which I arrived. I know it's frightening, man. Oh, it's pitiful. That's what alcoholism, our book says, that the women can be gone beyond recall in just a few short years. And I was 39 years old, and if I didn't drink, I had preliminary DTs. My brain would race, my vision was blurred, my hands would shake, and I had to have it. And it was bad, man. It was pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I was estranged from my family. I hadn't talked to my children in a long time. And I avoided everyone and everything, and I wished for the end. I was suicidal and homicidal. That's the condition I arrived in, man. My dad picked me up and he took me to a homeless shelter in Louisville that had like a recovery program that you could do. You know, it was a homeless shelter. You could just go in there and shower and spend the night or whatever. But if you wanted to, they would let you stay and join their recovery program, this tract for women. And I decided something different that day. So on March 6, 2010, he dropped me off and something happened. I laid in their detox, and this feeling just came over me that I was safe and this is where I should stay. And so I wrote a note to myself that said, this is a good idea. Because the body heals and the liar returns, right? And I got a new plan, and I got a new idea, and I will surrender in the moment, but quickly take back my will, my power, and the alcoholic brain will start working. I'm good. We're good at ideas. We've always got an idea. I got an idea. You know, that's always dangerous for the alcoholic. Because what I've learned in recovery is where I end, God begins. And when I'm out of ideas, thank God. Because now I'm able to receive information and now I'm teachable. But as long as my ego and this powerful thing between my ears can manufacture bullshit, I'll buy it every time. And something happened that day, and I surrendered, and I lived there a year, and I just started working for recovery. And I mean working for recovery. A foot to pavement. I studied that book. I highlighted it. I had notes. I had stuff in the margin. I had a dictionary, Big Book Dictionary. I became a student of our literature. And it moved me every time I would read it. I mean, I could relate. It made sense for the first time. Those words, Bill's story, the doctor's opinion, more about alcoholism. I not only heard it in my head, I felt it. When Bill says the remorse, horror of the next morning are unforgettable, I felt that, like pitiful and incomprehensible demon. I felt that. Listen is only the dying can, the flimsy hand. It just made I understood everything that was written in there, and it came to life for me. And I got a sponsor. I started working the steps to the best of my ability. I was a little punch drunk, still from fights and living off the street and malnourishment, but to the best of my ability, the only way, with full, genuine, earnest attempt to do it right and get it perfect, and scared that if I didn't, I would be struck drunk again, because I was, as much as I had surrendered to God, I was still relying on me for my sobriety, right? And what that did is that set me up for a real fear-based recovery. So I got sober on action. I got sober on saying prayers. I got sober on going to meetings. I got sober on writing inventory. I got sober on making amends. I got sober on these things that I was doing every day. But for the first 3 to 4 years of my recovery, I was terrified that if I missed a meeting or failed to move enough chairs or give enough rides or say the prayers the right way, that it would all fall apart. About 3-4 years sober, my first sponsor drank again, and I was forced to get a new sponsor. And I got a lady who was really nice and but truthful, but she was loving and she was warm, and I wasn't those things. I was still porcupine-ish. I still had a lot of jagged edges. My home group would joke that I 12 stomped women, because I'm going to give it to you straight. I care more about your life than your feelings, and that I kind of delivered our loving and beautiful program with a well, like Billy Badass, coming at you and beat you to death with the big book. And I got this new sponsor, and she said, "Why are you yelling at everyone?" And I was like, "So they can hear the message." And she said, "Oh, sweetheart, the truth doesn't have to be yelled. It just stands there all by itself." And she saw something in me, and she said, "Amy, why are you doing so much?" I said, "It's a program of action. Faith without works is dead." And she said, "Oh, honey," she said, "that's very good, baby." She said, "But grace is a gift, and you can't earn it." And something broke in me. I didn't know how to accept grace. And that happened for me between 3 and 5 years. Now, listen, I still move all the chairs. I still go to all the meetings. I still read the literature. I still say all the prayers. But I don't have a fear-based recovery anymore. I have a gratitude-based recovery, and it's a different thing. But it's where I was operating from. I still was operating from a place of fear. And my first fears inventory, I put snakes and spiders. And my sponsor was like, "No, what are you afraid of?" I said, "I ain't afraid of shit. I ain't afraid of nothing." I was a real tough girl, we ain't afraid of nothing. And she said, "Oh, honey, you're afraid of everything." I said, "No, I'm not." I was indignant. I was, insulted. And she said, "If you weren't so afraid, you wouldn't walk around with your dukes up." And I did, man. I was in the defensive position all the time. And I learned to be able to recognize what fear was and how it manifested in my life. But that was later. That was with spiritual growth and development, because more will be revealed if we continue to pray. What's Sandy say? Uncover, discover, discard. And so I'm on this spiritual journey. And so I'm starting to learn to experience grace. I'm slowing down. I'm not yelling. I'm not tense. I'm relaxing in my recovery. I'm comfortable in it. I'm still doing all the things because I love to do all the things, but I'm not out here trying to earn grace. I allowed it into my life. I'm building a relationship with my higher power that just takes time to build a relationship, right? And so this is occurring, but about 5 years sober, I kicked in my neighbor's door and I threatened to kill everybody in the house, because I would still rage out occasionally, not as much, but sometimes. And I was in a fear place about my son, and I was threatening, terroristic threatening is what the police call it. But I thought I was going to, kill them all, burn the house to the ground. I called my sponsor after I did that, not before. And I said, "When will I stop doing this? When am I going to stop acting like this?" And she said, "Oh, honey, when you work all the steps." And once again, what do you mean? I sponsor women. I do H&I, and she said the second half of 11. And she had me. It says prayer and meditation. It's not a bonus question. It's part of the steps. And I would pray, but I had never really given any effort to meditation. And she sent me to the 12 and 12. And I read step 11, and she invited me to begin to explore meditation. And that's what I did. And it turns out, when I can meditate, when I can spend time in reflective meditation, when I can spend time, whether it's a guided meditation or just a prayer or a mantra, whatever that looks like, when I can do that, I feel connected. I feel spiritually connected to source and to you. And if I'm connected to you, I'm less likely to hit you in the face, or cuss you out, because I don't see us as different. And that's what Randall was talking about, the we in the program, that it was for 5 years for me when in meditation, that I started to see the oneness of all things and of us, and how we're all connected in this beautiful thing that we're doing here in this journey. So I began to soften. Right. So I start to accept grace. Then I start to meditate. So now I won't cut you if you bump into me. My edges aren't as sharp. The porcupine quills are kind of coming out. My friend Chastity said if there was one word to describe me in early recovery, it was unapproachable. And I began to become approachable and less dangerous. I just carried an air of get back and, whatever. And started to soften and do better. I got the opportunity at about 6 years sober to start speaking for our beautiful program all over the country. And my dad got to go with me. And he loved AA. I got sober. My dad was 20 years sober when I got sober in 2010. His health wasn't as great by then. And he and I got to reconnect and heal and build this beautiful relationship. And I got the opportunity in sobriety to be a mom to my kids. And there was a long road of reconstruction ahead, right? And that's a whole different lead, right? But if you are returning to a family and they're mad, man, and they're hurt, and they get to be. And I have to stand in principle, and I have to stand in truth, and I have to stand with humility, and I have to offer love. And I came back. My two youngest were teenagers. They were entering adolescence. I was in early recovery. I think they were more mature than me, and I didn't know some days if we were all going to make it to the weekend, because I didn't know how to be a sober parent. I didn't know how to be a loving parent. I wanted to be loving, but I was critical and harsh and control and fear and all these places I operate. Guilt. Oh my God, I moved from this place of guilt, remorse, and you can't parent effectively that way. You can't do anything effectively, and so being centered in love and through meditation and prayer and action, I'm more effective, right? So in step 11, we talk about this. Here's where we grow in understanding and effectiveness. And when I'm using my character defenses, my friend Pearl says my character defects are my character defenses, because when I'm scared, I pull them out. I pull out judgment. I pull out, rage. I pull out, I pull these out like weapons to keep you away and protect me. And when I'm in fear, I'm going to use character defects every time. But if I'm safe and loving, and I love, if you ever get a chance, Dr. Bob had a poem about humility that used to sit on his desk. And I would read that over and over again, but to feel nothing done against me. So now I'm not reacting to you. I'm responding, and I can allow you to be who you are and feel where you need to be. And I can do that with love and compassion, hopefully most days, sometimes, right? And I have a beautiful relationship with all my adult children today. And I have grandkids that have never seen me drink. They've never seen me yell or mad or rage out. They think I'm the bee's knees, and I think they're pretty cute too. And I get to hang out with these kids, and then my kids say that it helps them when they see me in this loving grandmother role, this sober woman, because they know that that's who I am when the alcoholism is addressed, when the spiritual malady is rectified, and they recognize that they were raised with a mom who was unhealed and carried spiritual disease. And so they've accepted this new version of me without resentment or bitterness, and they allow me to be who I want to be with those kids. And my dad used to say, when I'm with you, I'm the best version of me. And when I'm with you, when I'm with my home group, when I'm with like-minded fellows, when we're talking about this deal, when we're doing this deal, when we're practicing this deal, I'm the absolute best version of me. And so that's why I got to keep checking in, right? Because everything I learned here has got a shelf life of about 48 hours. So I can have this beautiful lunch with you by the night, be giving my husband the cold shoulder, because I like to arouse bitterness and jealousy. I would progress, not perfection. I'm getting better. When I was 10 years sober, my dad died. And it took the breath out of my body. He was my best friend, man. We spent every day together, and we shared this beautiful program, and it was difficult. But I got to be the daughter that I wanted to be, and through that. And I didn't grieve him alone. I didn't lose him by myself. My dad was 30 years sober. He sponsored guys for 28, 29 years, and he had guys he sponsored for 6 months that had 6 months or 2 years or 3 years. My dad, was always available to the new man and active in his program of recovery. And so that funeral home was full of you. You showed up because AA missed my dad. And I didn't have to be alone in my suffering. Again, I wasn't alone in my suffering or my grief, right? And I got to celebrate my dad's life, and I got to learn to process grief sober. I went through a lot of changes then. It was a shifting. I think that anybody's been sober a while, you can almost kind of, it's all about change. I better be changing. I better not be given the same lead I gave when I got here, because then what have I done? Where's the change? And we go through these phases and these shiftings and these opportunities to draw closer to our Creator and one another. And I've been given those opportunities. I felt like when I turned 13 in AA that I had literally just entered adolescence. Like I felt like my teeth were buck and my chest was flat and I was awkward and I didn't know what to do. I was like, this is crazy. But I got a new sponsor at that time, and are about 12 years sober. And I've been working with Beth now for a few years, and I'm kind of maturing into my recovery and into my sobriety and into what it is to be a sober woman, a trusted servant of this program. And I went back to school in sobriety. I finished a 4-year degree in my chosen field of nursing. I'm well respected, that unemployed LPN who couldn't get a job or a reference. I became a sought after BSN with high accolades because we show up sober. We are charismatic and people like us, and we get promoted and we come in. But I learned in AA, I show up and I'm on time, actually, or usually early. And I do my work and I'm honest. I don't want to steal from my employer. I want to be there to be of service, to do the job I agreed to do, and be available and be cheerful while I do it. And that goes far in work. Who knew? And 2 years ago, me and two of the girls I was sponsoring decided to open our own business. And I stopped sponsoring them. They got new sponsors because I can't sponsor you and be your business partner, right? But we decided to give this a shot, and we're having a lot of fun. Nobody's going to retire. We don't know how ends are going to meet or people are going to get paid month to month, but I think we're helping people. And I was told early on that if you take care of God's kids, God will take care of you. And I believe that. And I continue to expand and sit in my relationship with my Creator and all of you. And life is not perfect by any means, but it's so good. It's so good. It's so much better than the condition in which I arrived. My life is magical. In a few weeks, I got asked to come to Bali, Indonesia, and speak at an AA conference. And I just laugh and laugh, because if you pulled up on me March 6th of 2010 on that street corner, you want to talk about a take my hand, we're going on a magic carpet ride. That's what my sobriety feels like. And if you're here, I just ask you to come all the way in and sit all the way down. Grace and magic and abundance, and then it's available to every one of us. So it's available to every one of us, and I hope you can find peace in your surrender. I hope you're out of ideas, right? I hope you're teachable, and I hope to always remain teachable and humble and grateful. Stay sober, and I got to guard against that, because ego is always fighting to return, right? It's always I want to compare myself to you or them or and I come up short every time, because my ego likes to tell me I'm getting cheated, I'm getting shortchanged, and pull me and separate me from you. The ego's job is to separate. And meditation and prayer and action in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is to connect. And when I'm with you, I'm the best version of me. Glenn, thank you so much for letting me share with you guys today. I love you all so much.